Hello and welcome to my studio. I'm Jessie and this is a brief tutorial on applied edges. I utilize the applied edge technique on a couple of my designs, including the Farmhouse shawl and the barn dance shawl. You'll see here I have the barn dance shawl ready for its applied border. I've knit the entire project up to the last body row, and you can see that the direction of knitting here is progressing perpendicular to the needle. To do the applied border, we're going to change the direction of our knitting. We have all of these live stitches here, and instead of binding them off, we're going to knit them off while we knit a lace simultaneously and add it on. Instead of creating a separate lace and sewing it on, we're going to knit it on. And I'm going to show you how that progresses. You can see here that the last row of the body of the shawl is in my color Wet Sand. The lace edge is actually going to be done in my orange shade that you see here called Spice Market. And that's going to be really helpful in this tutorial because of the contrast color. You're going to see immediately what's happening. So I pull the last thread, which I've trimmed here to leave a tail and weave in, to the back of my work, and I bring my working yarn up, ready to carry up and utilize for this technique. The direction of our knitting is going to change, and I'm going to show you how that happens. But initially it's going to be a little bit confusing because we start by casting on more stitches. The instruction for this particular shawl asks us to do a knitted cast on of 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it looks like we've actually made the shawl wider at the base at this point. That's where the confusion sets in, because you naturally assume that we're going to just work across a row with this little kick out happening here. But what's actually going to happen is these 4 stitches are going to be perpendicular to our needle as we work it. Now you can do this with the other end of the circular needle, or you can go ahead and use a straight needle or even a double pointed needle if that's more convenient to you. It's about your comfort. No needle choice is going to be wrong. I just have this right here handy. None of my stitches can fall off the end of it if I'm working with it, and it's less for me to juggle. But what works for you is what works for you. This is a setup row, and the setup row tells us to knit 3 stitches and then knit 2 together, and that's where the 90-degree angle comes in. So I'm going to knit 1, 2, 3 stitches, and then I'm going to knit 2 together. Notice one of those stitches is the light colored edge stitch, and one of those stitches is the new orange stitch. Knit 2 together. Now, because these stitches are on 2 separate needles, I can readily turn it and show you what the direction of knitting is. So I'm going to lay this down and I'm going to position it for you. This isn't going to be really evident quite yet. Let me get some spare lines out of the way here. But this is ultimately the direction our knitting is going in. We have the body of work that went this way, and now we have our lace edge that is going to progress this way. Every right side row I work on these stitches is going to be worked together with one of these stitches as we progress along this edge. We're going to work a couple of repeats of the lace so that you can see this happening. The first row of our lace instruction, whether it's charted or written, whichever works for you, tells us to turn the work. I'm going to snug up that stitch and slip the first stitch as if to purl. Then we work a yarn over, a purl 2 together, a yarn over, oops, and a purl. Our work turns. This time we're going to knit 4 stitches and then work 2 together. 3, 4, and again you can see the next 2 stitches on the needle. One is the light color and one is the orange, and I'm knitting those 2 stitches together. The work turns. The first stitch of any wrong side row during the lace edge is slipped purlwise. On this row we're going to purl 1, yarn over, purl 2 together, yarn over, purl 1. We're back at the end of our work. We're going to turn again. This particular row tells me to knit 5 and then knit 2 together. Two together. One of the lace stitches, one of the shawl stitches. Work turns. Slip that first stitch purlwise. Purl 1, purl 2, yarn over, purl 2 together. Make sure it goes through proper. There we go. Yarn over, purl 1. Turn my work. This row tells me to knit 6 stitches and then 2 together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and my 2 together. One of the lace, one of the body of the shawl. I turn my work. I slip the first stitch. This time I'm purling 3 stitches before I do the actual yarn overs for the lace. 2, 3, yarn over, purl 2 together, yarn over, purl 1. Turn my work. So you can start to see here, it's just starting to get visible. The direction of the knitting has changed. Here's the shawl where we were working in this direction here. Here's the lace where we're working in this direction here. And this is going to become more evident the further along we go. But essentially, every time we do a knit 2 together that includes a lace stitch and a body stitch, we're binding off the body of the shawl. This lace features points. I'm at that point of the lace that we're going to do the points. And it requires a bind off. It's a short bind off. We bind off 4 stitches. Bind off 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches, knit 1, knit 2, and knit 2 together. The first point of our lace is complete. I'm going to lay this down again so that you can really get a good view of the direction of the knitting and understand that we've actually turned our work 90 degrees. So here's the body of the shawl that you worked so hard on. Here are the live stitches from the edge of the body of the shawl. And here's our lace progressing perpendicular to the body of the shawl across that edge. Let me turn it a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. I feel like my hands are kind of in the way for you. So here's a little bit better shot of the direction of knitting. This is the body of the shawl that you worked so hard to do. Here are all the live edge stitches. And here's the lace as it's progressing perpendicular to the body of the shawl, using up all those live stitches as it attaches. I'm going to work a couple more reps of the lace edge so that you can better see how it applies and see the direction of knitting. First stitch of every wrong side row is a slip as if to purl. We don't want to add any bulk there, we just want it to slip over. Oh, what have I done? There's my slip, there's my yarn over. Right side rows are basically rest rows. You're always knitting across to the last of the lace stitches and the first of the body stitches and working those two together. Just like that. So here I've completed a couple more repeats of the lace edge onto the body of the work. And it's much easier now to see how the direction of knitting has changed. Here's our little cast on where we did 4 stitches, and we started to work back and forth here just over this little lace repeat. And every time we completed a right side row, we knit 2 together. We knit one of the lace stitches and one of the body stitches together. So here's the lace, here's the body, and at the end of every right side row there's a knit 2 together that happens right here that applies that lace edge for us. Because it's in a contrast, it's much easier to see where those knit 2 togethers happen here, and it looks like it was hand sewn on. Really a lovely technique, really an easy technique to finish any shawl and put a little bit of lace on that edge. I hope this tutorial was helpful to you. I hope that you're able to see the change in the direction of the knitting and confidently go forward to work on this project or to add lace of your own to any other project. Thank you for watching.